There are certainly not many Airbus A340s left in regular scheduled passenger service, and if you don't want to feature Lufthansa on an A340, then your choice is even more limited. But Herpa has found an airline that still operates the Airbus A340-600, coming from South America, and the guys from Jumbolino Model have been so very kind to send me over this model so we together can take a look at it to see if Herpa has been cooking a nice meal or a spoiled meal for us. And what else you can do apart from watching this review is checking out Jumbolino Model, who have nice models at reasonable prices with great service. So do check them out. You can find the link to them in the video description below. With that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where, as mentioned, we'll take a closer look at an Airbus A340-600 of Conviasa. At the front of the box we have a cutout, so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of that we have the Conviasa branding. Now, since Herpa doesn't really care much about their products, their boxes very much reflect that, which means we have yet another cutout here on the back side of the box and nothing else that is worth mentioning, apart from the fact that this is a limited edition. And here she is, the Airbus A340-600 in the standard livery of Conviasa, the flag carrier of Venezuela. Now, the backbone of the Conviasa fleet is the Embraer 190, which the airline has 15 aircraft of, but for their intercontinental traffic, they are using exclusively the Airbus A340, and very interestingly, all three variants. So the Airbus A340-200, 300, and as we see here, 600. Now, Herpa has featured this 600 variant for us in scale 500, and we want to find out what they have done with this aircraft model, how they have managed to replicate this for us, if it is worth our money and time. So let's figure that out by taking a look at it. Starting off with the tail section, where we on the vertical stabilizer have the Conviasa branding, and you can see above that also the Venezuelan flag. On the fuselage, we then have the web address of the airline, and we find the full registration code of the aircraft. Of course, a little bit more detailing in the cabin doors, for example, would have been lovely, but this is the amount of detailing we get from Herpa Wings nowadays, apart from the APU exhaust, which we find at the very tail of the aircraft. Now, if we move to the front of the aircraft, we can see across the fuselage the writing of Conviasa. You can't miss that branding for sure. We do also have some static ports, and just in front of the Conviasa branding we have the aircraft type specification. We also have the flag of Venezuela, once more represented here in its official form, and underneath that we have a bunch of writing which I very much presume is the name of the aircraft, but of course you can always confirm or let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. From that part of the aircraft, we can move on to the cockpit section itself, since we are basically already there, which consists of the cockpit windows with the window wipers. That's the extent of detailing we unfortunately get here. A little bit more wouldn't have hurt anyone, Herpa, but of course, again, this is very much in line with their current standards. But what about the engine nacelles? Now, they have been kept in all white, just as most of the fuselage, but do have the silver leading edge printed on and the safety markings, and quite interestingly, on the inner side of the engines, there we find the Rolls-Royce logo. And from what I've been able to gather, while a little bit unusual maybe, it seems to be the right placement, so well done Herpa to catch that detail and add it to the engines. The physical detailing of these engines, also here I have nothing really to complain about. I think Herpa has done quite well with that. Oh my god, look at all these lovely models! Oh, I'm sorry that I interrupted your review, but we'll get back to that model in just a second. But just check out all these lovely models. And perhaps you're like me and you just don't know which one you should add next to your collection, because here you're truly spoiled for choice with all the scales and all the die-cast manufacturers that you can find at the Jumbolino Model store. So do check them out. You can find a link to them in the video description below. Now, moving on from this handsome man with his nice recommendations, we can take a look at the fuselage just above the wings, where we have the emergency exit printed on, leading us straight on to the wings, which we should also take a closer look at, where we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out quite nicely. We have some different shades of grey for additional detailing, but that's the amount of detailing we get here on the top side. The underside of the wings offers us more nice physical detailing, and we also find the full registration code of the aircraft. Then the A340-600, of course, also has these nice, lovely winglets, where we again have the Conviasa color scheme, branding, and the Venezuelan flag printed on. The landing gear, that is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all the Airbus A340-600s. A neat little detail here is the additional landing gear here in the center of the fuselage, because of course the airframe was too heavy for the real landing gear of Airbus, so they needed to reinforce that. Also, the front landing gear looking fine, but just imagine some printed details here, how much that could have elevated the overall experience. And well, we do also get a bit of an experience on the belly of the aircraft in form of a hole in the fuselage. How exciting for a stand that is of course not included with this aircraft model. But we do have a little bit more physical detailing-ish, I would say. It's not the best, but it's at least there in form of the ram air intakes. So yeah, better than nothing, I guess. And I guess that could also be said about the detailing we have on top of the fuselage in form of a set dome. And I really love the contrast of the set dome, this gray set dome, to the white fuselage, except that it is wrong, because the real aircraft has a set dome, but it's white. So I don't know, Herpa just making up stuff here as usual. What they haven't made up is the fact that the aircraft does have some hatches for the cargo compartments, and they have printed them on here at the back of the aircraft and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A340-600 in the standard livery of Conviasa from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? I mean, in many ways it's a bit of a peculiar release, because it's sure an interesting airline, and it's also cool to have the Airbus A340-600 featured in something else than the Lufthansa livery. But of course, given mostly sanctions on the country, the airline doesn't really come around much. So it's not really an aircraft that will fit many collectors' fleet, apart from just wanting to have the novelty, having this fairly special aircraft, because we have had Conviasa aircraft models in the past from Herpa Wings as well, but of course it's been many, many years since we've last seen an aircraft model featured in scale 500. So yeah, I think it's a fine thing that they have done it, even if it is a bit more niche. We have some oddities, I think, around it. I mean, firstly, I would like to say that the cockpit section of the Airbus A340-600 seems to be normal again. I have to mention this because the last Airbus A340-600 that was released by Herpa Wings was in the new Lufthansa livery. And the A340-600 has always been quite solid from Herpa Wings, but with that Lufthansa release, they completely butchered the cockpit section. How and why, I don't know, but they completely messed it up. This seems much more reasonable again, so that's great. But what I have noticed is, apart from having the gray set dome, which should be white, and I don't really know why they would make it gray. I mean, that's surely an extra step for them to color it in gray. I don't know. But what I have noticed here is that I think the aircraft sits quite tall. It's quite high up. Something with the landing gear, I don't know. It just makes the aircraft feel much taller than it should be. When I compare it with images, I think it looks, the model looks off for me. It's not really something I have noticed on previous Airbus A340-600 releases, so I don't really know what's up with that. Maybe it's just a wrong feeling that I have, my gut feeling not really being solid here. If that is the case, let me know in the comment section down below. But apart from that, I think we have a pretty nice model in front of us. The print quality overall, I think, is fine. We don't have print lines. Okay, it's not really a livery that invites print lines, but Herpa is capable of doing many funny things. Really neat that they managed to add the Rolls-Royce logo on the inner side of the engines, a detail that easily could have been overlooked or omitted by Herpa Wings, but they did add it here, and I think they should be praised for that. So an interesting release from Herpa Wings, while having a few weak points here and there. I think definitely not the worst they have thrown on us this year, but I have one major issue with it, and that is the official retail price being 45 euros. It's not worth that much, and I think it's quite unfortunate because, as it is quite niche, it would be a model that I think many collectors would like to take into their fleet, but with that price, many will probably skip it, and I think it's sad because it will give Herpa the wrong image of taking the selling data and seeing, oh, people don't want to have models like that, and I don't think that is the case. It just needs to be priced reasonably. But as always, let me know your thoughts about this aircraft model in the comments section down below. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. If you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.